Cornelius, okay? St. Luke describes in the Acts of the Apostles how Christianity was first brought to the Gentiles. Cornelius, a Gentile, and the Apostle Peter both have visions. Peter goes to the house of Cornelius, and the Holy Spirit does the rest of the work. The work of the Holy Spirit, we will find, is not limited by ethnic, political, or even geographic boundaries, but the Holy Spirit can be limited by the refusal of people to cooperate.
Yeah.
That's
But
right.
Peter decides to cooperate. Peter follows God's plan, and he goes to the house of Cornelius, even though this is contrary to his beliefs. Even though Jesus, before ascending to heaven, clearly commissioned the apostles to spread the gospel to the four corners of the earth, these men still wanted to hold on to their notion that salvation was reserved only for God's chosen people, the Jewish people. Peter, normally stubborn and resistant to change, follows the promptings of the Holy Spirit, even though this request requires him to step out of character and go, into a little bit of beyond into uncharted territory. So first we'll have the reading. This is a reading from the Acts of the Apostles. At Caesarea there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion in the Italian regiment. He and his family were devoted and God-fearing. He gave generously to those in need and prayed to God regularly. One day, at about 3 p.m, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, "Cornelius, your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, who is called Peter. He stays by the sea." So Cornelius called 2 of his servants and a devout soldier who was one of his attendants. He sent them to Joppa to bring back Peter. About noon the following day, Peter went up on his roof to pray. He became hungry and wanted something to eat. And while the meal was still being prepared, Peter fell into a trance. He saw heaven open and something like a large sheet being let down to the earth by its 4 corners. It contained all kinds of 4-footed animals as well as reptiles and birds. And a voice said to him, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." "Surely not, Lord," said Peter. "I have never eaten anything impure or unclean." The voice spoke to him a second time. "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." This happened 3 times, and immediately the sheet was taken back to heaven. So while Peter was wondering what the meaning of this vision was, the men sent by Cornelius came to his door and stood by the gate. They called out, asking if Simon, who was known as Peter, was staying there. Peter was still thinking about the vision when the Holy Spirit said to him, "Simon, 3 men are looking for you. Get up and go downstairs. Do not hesitate to go with them, for I have sent them." So Peter went down and said to them, "I am the one you're looking for. Why have you come?" The men replied, "We have come from Cornelius the centurion. He is a righteous and God-fearing man who is respected by all the Jewish people. A holy angel told him to ask you to come to his house so that he could hear what you have to say." Then Peter invited these men into his own home as guests. The next day Peter started out with them, and some of the believers from Joppa followed along. The following day they arrived at Caesarea. Cornelius was expecting them and had called together his relatives and close friends. As Peter entered the house, Cornelius met him and fell at his feet in reverence. But Peter made him get up. "Stand up," said Peter. "I am only a man myself." So while talking with him, Peter went inside and found a large gathering of people. He said to them, "You are well aware that it is against my law as a Jew to associate or visit the Gentiles, but God has shown me that I should not call anyone impure or unclean. So when I was sent for, I came without raising any objection. So may I ask, why did you send for me?" Cornelius answered, 3 days ago I was in my own house praying at this hour at 3 p.m. Suddenly a man in shining clothes stood before me and said, "Cornelius, God has heard you and your prayer and remembered the gifts you have given to the poor. Send to Joppa for Simon, who is called Peter. So I sent for you immediately, and it was good for you to come. Now we are all here in the presence of God to listen to everything the Lord has commanded you to tell us." So Peter began to speak. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts from every nation the one who fears him and does what is right. You know the message of God sent to the people of Israel, announcing the good news of peace through Jesus Christ, who is Lord of all, and how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power. They killed him by hanging him on the cross, but God raised him from the dead on the third day and caused him to be seen. He was not seen by all people, but by us who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. He commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that he is the one whom God appointed as judge of the living and the dead. All the prophets testify about him, that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. When Peter was still speaking these words, the Holy Spirit came on all who heard the message. The believers who had come with Peter were astounded that the gifts of the Holy Spirit had been poured out upon Gentiles, for they heard them speaking in tongues and praising God. Then Peter said, "Surely no one can stand in the way of their being baptized with water. They have received the Holy Spirit, as we have, so we ordered that they were baptized in the name of Christ." Then they asked Peter to stay with them for a few days. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Now we're going to remember Peter's first encounter with Jesus one morning when Jesus stepped into Peter's boat and told him, "Put out into the deep for a catch." This went against everything that Peter had learned as an experienced fisherman, but he did as Jesus requested, and he had an amazing catch. Now in the reading today, Peter's again being told to put out into the deep for a catch. He's being asked to step out of his comfort zone, go out and do something that doesn't seem to make sense. But again, he follows, he's led by the Holy Spirit, and he visits the house of a Gentile because of the prompting of the Holy Spirit. And once again, Peter had an amazing catch. Christianity was opened up for the whole world. Thank you.
Praise God. Very good.